Students, today we will do the revision of lesson 7 control and coordination. First question, what is the difference between the reflex action and walking? Reflex action is the sudden, spontaneous, involuntary action. It is the sudden, spontaneous and involuntary response to a stimulus by the voluntary organs. Walking is movement of the muscles of the leg controlled by the brain. What happens at the synapse between the two neurons? What is the synapse? If we draw the diagram of the neuron, then this is the structure of the neuron and this is the nerve ending of the one neuron. And now the next neuron, the junction of this junction of these two neurons, ending of the one neuron and starting of the other neuron. It means axon of the one neuron and dendrite of the other neuron. This is called the synapse. This junction is called the synapse. And here is the fluid present. This is called the synaptic fluid. This is the synaptic fluid. Here the neurotransmitters are transmitted and it helps in the transmission of the impulse from one neuron to the another neuron. Synapse is the junction between the terminal of one axon and dendrite of the adjacent neuron. There is a gap between the two is called synaptic cleft or synaptic gap. As the electrical impulse reaches the terminal node, they release the chemicals called the neurotransmitter. These chemicals cross the gap and start a similar electrical impulse in the dendrite of the next neuron. Which part of the brain maintains posture and equilibrium of the body? Body posture and equilibrium is maintained by the cerebellum. That is the cerebellum. How do we detect the smell of an agarbatti or incense stick? Sensory information regarding smell is received by the olfactory lobe of the brain. Sensory information regarding smell. Smell is received by the olfactory lobe of brain. As the air passes through the nasal chambers, the olfactory epithelial cell gets stimulated and convey the information as electrical impulses to brain, which have the power of interpretation. What is the role of brain in reflex action? Thinking center are located in the brain. Brain is the coordinating center. Brain and spinal coordination with each other control all voluntary and involuntary actions. Voluntary actions that are controlled by our will. Involuntary actions that are not controlled by our will. Now, what are plant hormones? Plant hormones, these are the chemical compounds secreted by the plants. These are the chemical compounds secreted by the plant, which diffuses all around the other cells and regulate the activities. Plant hormones helps to coordinate growth, development and response to the environment. How is the movement of leaves of sensitive plant is different from the movement of shoot towards light? Sensitive plants show seismonetic movement or nestic movement. It is due to the turgidity of the cells. The movement of the shoot is the tropic movement. That is, shoot move towards the light. It will show the phototropism. Give an example of the plant hormone that promotes growth. IAA, indole 3-acetic acid, is the plant hormone that promotes growth. How do auxin promote growth of a tendril around a spot? Auxin synthesized in the tip helps the cell to grow longer. Some plants like the pea plants climb up other plants or spot by means of the tendril. Tendrils are the thread-like structure. Just you have seen such like of the structure. These are called the tendrils. These are the spring-like structure or thread-like structure. These tendrils are sensitive to the touch. When they come in contact with any spot, the part of the tendril in contact with the object does not grow as rapidly as the part of the tendril away from the object. This causes the tendril to circle around the object and thus cling to it. It is due to the accumulation of the auxins. Question. Design an experiment to demonstrate the hydrotropism. Take a porous pot or the glass tumbler and fill it with the water. Keep a few freshly germinating pea seedlings in a dried sand. As the water is not available in the sand, the root growing will bend towards the porous pot filled with water. You will observe a hydrotropic curvature of the root as it grows towards the water. Root grows towards the water. This bending of root shows the movement as a response towards the water. How does chemical coordination take place in animals? It is brought about by the chemical messenger called the hormones. Hormones are present in the animals for the chemical coordination. They are secreted by the endocrine gland. Endocrine gland are ductless gland. Hormones are carried by the blood to the site of the action, that is the target organ. Hormones are consumed during their action. Hormone provides wide-ranging changes. Why is the use of iodized salt advisable? Iodine is necessary for the thyroid gland to make the thyroxine hormone. Thyroxine hormone regulates carbohydrates, protein and fat metabolism. It is required for the growth. In case of deficiency of thyroxine, a disorder or a disease called goiter is caused, and iodine is present in the iodized salt. That's why iodized salt is advisable. How does our body respond when adrenaline is secreted into the blood? Adrenaline is called the emergency hormone. Adrenaline is secreted by the adrenal gland during emergency. That's why it is called the emergency hormone. It prepares the body to respond effectively in the emergency condition. Following actions occur: heart beat faster so as to pump the blood to muscles which need more energy. The blood supply to the digestive system and skin is reduced due to the contractions of the muscles around these organs. This helps in diverting the blood supply to the muscles. Breathing becomes fast. Face becomes red. Question. Why are some patients of diabetes treated by giving injections of the insulin? Insulin hormone is secreted by the islet of Langerhans of pancreas. These hormones help in regulating the sugar level in the blood. Its deficiency results in high sugar level and causes many harmful effects. Which of the following is a plant hormone? Insulin is the animal hormone, thyroxine is animal hormone, estrogen is animal hormone, or you can say human being hormone, cytokinin is the plant hormone. The gap between two neurons is called the synapse. Dendrite and axon are the part of the neuron. Brain is responsible for the thinking, regulating the heartbeat, balancing, all of the above. All of the above is the right answer. Next question. What is the function of receptors in the body? Think of situations where receptors do not work properly. What problems are likely to arise? Receptors. They are meant for receiving. Receptor means receiving and detecting the information from environment. They are located in the sense organ. They receive the information detected by the tips of dendrites and convey as electrical impulses. If reflectors do not detect the information, there will not be any coordination. It may lead to accident. Body response will not be there. Eyes see any object or before your eyes and receptor detect the information and mind give the order according to that. Next question. Draw a label diagram of neuron and explain its function. Draw the structure of neuron and label the following on it. Nucleus, dendrite, cell body and axon. And this is the very important question from exam point of view, as we have drawn already. Just neuron have the hair-like structure. These hair-like structure are called the dendrites or dendron. Here is the nucleus. Here is the cytoplasm. And this is total is called the cell body. Cell body. This is called the cell body. Now here are the axons. And it has the sheath. This is called myelinated sheath or myelin sheath. Myelin sheath. And this is called the node of Ranvier. Node of Ranvier. And this is the nerve ending. Nerve ending. This is the structure of the neuron or nerve cell. And this is very important. Function. Nerve cells are specialized for conducting information via the electrical impulse from one part of the body to another part. Just by forming the synapse, they are passing the information from one nerve cell to the another nerve cell. Dendrites acquire the information and send it to the axon. Then axon conduct the information as an electrical impulse and terminal pass the information as the chemical stimulus at synapse for the onward transmission in the form of the impulse. It will send the information. It will send the information in the form of the impulse. Now next question. How does phototropism occur in the plants? Phototropism. Photo means light. Movement towards the light. It is an established fact that plants bend towards the light when they are exposed to it from one side of the long axis. The aerial parts are positively phototropic and the roots are the negatively phototropic, or you can say they are geotropic. And underground parts bend away from the light. These movements are due to the interactions of the light and oxygens. The unilateral growth causes bending of stem as tip grows more rapidly. Next question. Which signal will get disrupted in case of the spinal cord injury? If there is an injury in the spinal cord, then reflexation will affect, because spinal cord mainly control the reflex action in the body. Spinal cord is made up of the nerves which supply information to think about. Thus, these actions will get disrupted in case of injury to the spinal cord. Sensation and movement are restricted. How does chemical coordination occur in the plant? How does the control and coordination take place in plants? Control and coordination in plants. Plants lack well-organized control mechanism as in the animals. However, plant responds to the light, touch and gravitational forces. Moreover, growth and movement in plant are regulated by the external and internal factors. Growth regulators. Plant growth regulators or phytohormones. Plant growth regulators are also called the phytohormones. Are the chemicals. Phytohormones are the chemical occurring in the minute quantities and responsible for regulating metabolism, growth and development. The important phytohormones are auxin, indole acetic acid, gibberellins, cytokinins, ethylene and abscisic acid or ABA. All growth processes are regulated by one or more phytohormones acting synergetically or antagonistically. What is the need for a system of control and coordination in an organism? Control and coordination in the body is of two types, that is nervous control and hormonal control. Nervous control is rapid. It takes place through the electrical signals. Electrical signals called nerve impulses. The hormonal control is through the chemical messenger, and chemical messenger are called hormones secreted by the endocrine or ductless gland and carried by the blood to the target organ. How are involuntary action and reflex action different from each other? Reflex action are the sudden, spontaneous response by the voluntary organ, but involuntary action are to be by the involuntary organ or muscles, and that are not according to our will. Compare and contrast the nervous and hormonal mechanism for control and coordination in animals, endocrine system and nervous system. The action of endocrine system is often very diverse, affecting many cells and sometimes several organs found in the different part of the body. The action of the nervous system is limited to a few muscle fibers or gland cells of an organ or organ system. The system is not directly connected to organ or tissues under its control. The system is directly connected to the tissues or organ under its control. Endocrine system exerts its control through hormones or the chemical regulators poured into the circulatory system. Nervous system exerts its control through the chemical stimulants poured directly over the tissues or the organs. Information is transmitted slowly, but in the nervous system, information is transmitted instantaneously. In endocrine system take time to produce response. It therefore regulates those processes where the response is not immediately required. It control process where an immediate response is required. The effect is long lasting, but in the nervous system effect is short lived. What is the difference between the manner in which movement takes place in a sensitive plant and movement in our leg? The sensitive plant use electrical chemical means to convey the information from cell to cell. But in animals, there is no specialized tissue in plants for conduction of the information. Thank you.